Going Medieval is a normally relaxed colony sim that emphasizes building a grand village, but I wanted to make the game more challenging so the story of the aspiring settlement of Treofode would be more interesting. Let's meet the cast. I made everyone short because it looks funny, especially in-game. 3 friends set out to escape their past and establish a new life for themselves. Welcome to their tale. I load into the map and waste no time chopping trees. Without pausing, the timer to the next raid is always ticking down. Hauling things to where they're supposed to go might be a little bit hard with those tiny legs. The first building goes down near the nearby ridge. Willem hauls wood for Mabel to build with, while Winna wants to harvest mushrooms and trees. A campfire goes in for cooking in what will be our kitchen. Then I'll put in a stockpile for food until a cellar for more long-term storage can go in the near-ish future. Willem Baker can start making meals. As the family name implies, he's used to working in nicer kitchens than this. But he left that family business behind when their insistence on making staples for the common man stopped him from realizing his culinary dream of making the finest apple pastries in all the land. I want to give him that chance. The second building goes in against the cliff face. While it's going up, the first meals come out. Now that animals can eat these, it's important to keep them inside if you don't want any nearby foxes mooching off of you. I set a few tiles to get mined out near the kitchen for what will be a cellar. Then I add some beds into this second building as the sun starts to set. I'll go ahead and finish off this multi-purpose room with some walls on the backside and a basic research table that lets us start unlocking technologies. All of that is going to give Mabel a lot of work to do though. Why are you idle? Oh, Mabel trapped herself and made it my problem. Alright, let's get her out of there. Night falls as the research table goes in, unlocking the technology tree and letting us start on that tomorrow morning. A roof and this little lean-to over our stored goods to prevent decay can also go in then. The sun rises and Mabel gets even more work queued up. Shrines for religious needs, and a backgammon table to keep everyone entertained. With the rest of the room finished, Mabel can have another go at this. Round 2, fight. Maybe Mabel Mustel just wants to be trapped to give Bergwenna the chance to save her. Though Mabel never wanted to leave for her own sake, she gave up her comfortable life to come protect her childhood friend. The woman dreams of the kind of peace and safety brought by a massive, impenetrable castle. Bergwenna isn't nearly the builder that Mabel is, but she can manage the staircase up from this little makeshift prison. Once Mabel is free, she can thank her friend and get back to work. Once that awning is in, we can do something extremely important. Making sure it doesn't look awful. Kind of, if you squint a lot. With our basic needs taken care of, I can start tending to the animals. Wild ones get a butchering table, while our cute chickens get a nice pen that'll keep them safe, productive, and reproductive. They'll also get a nice little shack to give them some shelter from the sun. Even without the pen finished, they find that roof to sleep beneath. The enclosure finishes being built the next morning, which means I can set it to only allow chickens, and Willem can start roping them over. This is going to be their new home, which means they'll need some troughs to eat hay out of. The rain is a good reminder to roof off our kitchen because, yeah, watered down mushroom stew just seems nasty. I'll use the first unlocked technology, beams, to help build the cellar. Then the second technology, agriculture, to start planting things that'll eventually fill it up. Cabbages go in first. I'll set these to not be harvested until they've gone to seed, so that we have all the seeds we'll ever need in the future. A flax field and tree saplings can go in next. It's plenty of work for Bergwenna Boziette to handle, but she's always enjoyed dirtying her hands and watching her labors bear fruit, or vegetables as it were, over the course of the season. She was set to be married off to a nobleman's son, but took control of her own life. The woman confided in her best friend, and decided to run away in hopes of decorating a marvelous castle with a magnificent garden. Raw food and seeds will go into the cellar, while cooked meals go in the dining area. Although you want your cellar to avoid having floors, since they cause it to warm up a little, it's necessary for now to avoid food decaying. I'll fix that once I unlock a couple more technologies and put in shelves. As it is, this will keep things fresh until it's much hotter out. The first trader arrives to sell me barley, which I'll plant for eventual hay and for booze. I tried a dozen seeds before ultimately choosing this one, but I only looked at the map topography. Yep, our base happens to be near natural gold and silver on the surface. Let's make sure to put that inside our walls. The first one goes in so that we can start protecting ourselves. Stairs down to the lower level get mined out at our back, and then another wall goes in on the other side. Each side gets a door and it'll be good to go, although that'll take a lot of wood and a lot of time. Mabel gets on it, though she will need to mine out a bit more in our cellar first. It's a little too warm throughout the day. Since thermal insulation works off of surface area, mining it like this should help keep things cooler. The barley will take a while, and I want to play with the new fermentation system now, so I'll plant a bunch of red currants to make into fermenting fruit juice in the near future. The defensive walls finish the next morning, though these are far from what the final defenses will be. I want to eventually bridge over to the landmass near the shared bedroom, turn it into an island by mining at the natural ramps, then turn what we have now into a castle stronghold. But that's an episode 3 or 5 kind of thing. For now, actual defenses can start going in. That starts with stairs on either side so an archer's platform can go in on the high ground. It's best to put these forward so that our bowmen can fire back on enemies funneling into the choke point without any cover obstructing their lines of fire. Oh, good timing on those defenses. Theodoric arrives. The man is a bloodthirsty marshal, which actually involves a lot of medicine and not very much combat. He's infirm and something of a whiner. It's part of why Theodoric was run out of a nearby count's castle after making a minor medicinal mistake. Drunken boasting about being a genius doctor drew a bandit's attention, and he fled to us to avoid being kidnapped. The archer's nest gets more flooring, so Merlans can go in on either side. The raiders arrive, so everyone gets into position. I 1000% made the right call with making everyone short. Endless source of laughter, 11 out of 10 would recommend making your colonists struggle to see above waist-high walls. The whiny Theodoric refuses to lift a weapon to help, mostly because we don't have a fourth one for him to actually use. Well, our archers make quick work of their lone bowmen thanks to high ground and cover, then turn around and unload on the soldiers beating at our walls. It takes a while, and it's not an honorable fight, but it's a win for us all the same. Raids are going to get much harder soon enough. With that done, I'll unlock furniture, haul the enemy's corpses away from the walls, and take their blood-stained gear inside. I want to break most of it down and use some of the rest eventually. And since a good victory deserves a good drink, I'll also unlock fermenting and put the workstation in behind our kitchen. That's going to take a while though. For now, our settlers can unwind, celebrate, and get to know the newcomer while uncomfortably sober. Doubly so when Theodoric starts talking. Even the ever-friendly Mabel struggles to give him a friendly smile. A little awning goes in to protect the brewing station from the rain, while some of the spare red currants we have go to the first batch of what will eventually be red wine. The fermenting fruit juice will take a full season above 50 degrees Fahrenheit, but only a few days between 40 and 50. I want to put this somewhere that's the right temperature to ferment, and this little mini cellar that Mabel trapped herself in is perfect for it. Here, it can finish fermenting in just a few days. Although Mabel could have handled hauling this over on her own, she got Bergwena to stop gardening for just long enough to help. And what better place to drink booze than at a library? One starts going in on the far side of our encampment. It'll be near the trees and is a nice place to work. Although it is a little bit of a walk from everything else, the bustle of a village is no place for research. Unlocking decorative structures means that we can put in bookshelves, which will make it an official library, and give the research tables inside a buff to their production speed. With a fourth colonist here, the shared bedroom is getting a little too crowded. They deserve their own private bedrooms that are still a little too crowded. It is twice the bare minimum though, so I get good guide points for designing these. I'll also get working on metalworking, which starts with a kiln to fire clay into bricks, to eventually turn into a forge. I want to tuck small chapels into the space near the pens and kitchen. The berry bushes that have naturally grown there need to go, but that's fine. I've got plenty planted already. After that, walls go in and the shrines go over. With the first linen harvest coming up, our workshop can also start to go in. Ooh, chickens. You have no idea how happy this update makes me. I was so sad when I originally got into this game and realized I couldn't have exactly this for my villagers. Summer arrives. We're in a pretty good place for our first season. I'll go ahead and unlock smelting furnaces and put a couple in near the entrance to start making metal ingots. A new settler is here. Clement is wounded but alive, and he doesn't have a raid at his back. The lazy man likes little, but he's been forced to ignore his sole passion to instead labor in mines he's hated so that he could eat. He dreams not of some luxurious goal, but of simply dreaming again. Clement wandered across us by chance, but it certainly seems like fate that the amateurish yet disillusioned metalworker arrives just as furnaces go in. He might not realize his potential yet, but I'm going to try to kindle that wary flame of a passion into a roaring inferno of a mastery he can be proud of. An advancing society calls for more advanced research tables. Not advanced research tables, which are something else entirely, but regular research tables that are more advanced than basic. Oh, that requires an intellectual skill of 15. Theodoric isn't too far off, but he isn't there yet. Despite closing in on metalworking, I want to unlock wooden weapons. I need more short bows, and I want to start training my carpenter up so that they can eventually make high quality crossbows. Bergwina should handle this, but she's so busy gardening that I'm not sure she'll get around to it for quite a long time. That might be sort of a winter thing for her. I also want to put down clay brick paths to speed people up as they go through the village. Some of the fields get adjusted to make room for them before Mabel puts it all in. A merchant caravan arrives, and it's a doozy, but in a good way. They bring a high quality heavy crossbow that's the best weapon we're going to have for a long time, some more barley to plant, and then, perhaps best of all, some apple saplings. There aren't enough for an orchard just yet, but it's still enough to put a wide smile on Willem's face and fill his voice with so much infectious cheer that it puts everyone in good spirits. Even Theodric. I think the backgammon tables on this cliff could use a little decoration. Who doesn't want to play the only entertaining thing in existence beneath the shade of beautiful trees while the sizzling scent of dinner wafts over from the nearby kitchen? That tranquility is a hint of the stability that Mabel wants. The first batches of cabbage seeds and barley are coming out, and between that and what we just bought, the fields are going to be full, and so will the cellar. I unlock preservation, which allows me to build shelves. Each of these will store 3 piles worth of goods on one spot, making it all much more space efficient, and mean that I can get rid of the floors. Doing that will ensure that the temperature is low enough that food doesn't go bad year round. Though Clement wasn't being followed, raiders are still happy to attack us, although this band doesn't have a single archer. That should make for an easy fight, totally not jinxing it. I'm going to leave regular bows in their hands, instead of equipping Willem with the heavy crossbow we just bought. It's much worse for training, since you get a flat amount of experience per shot and per hit, regardless of if they're shooting a fast short bow or a slow crossbow. This totally is not a justification of me forgetting about it that I'm writing in after the fact. The raiders struggle to gain a foothold, while our archers pick them off until enough have died that the survivors flee. They give us some decent armor and a bunch of weapons, most of which I'll break down for experience and for materials, but this is the last easy raid we're going to have. Theodric hits an intellectual skill of 15, which means that he'll be able to make red books and unlock higher tiers of technology for us. Although we don't need any particular skill to get more chickens. More chickens are good. Nearby trees are also good. Those saplings we planted so long ago are ready to be harvested, although a heat wave will make that part more difficult. I'll add to the heat by unlocking forges and blacksmithing. This is where we're going to work metal once we've got a talented enough smith. Clement still isn't there just yet, although he is just barely starting to not lament waking up in the morning. The rapid growth that comes as inexperience is shed is rewarding for anyone. Discovering that you can learn to do something you always thought was locked away from you is a special moment. He still assumes that he'll soon hit a plateau, still counting down the time until the other villagers discover he's hopeless and kick him out. His thoughts are so twisted that he thinks not that he might not be hopeless, but that the other villagers might not discover it. Once that's in, Clement can start breaking down gear in addition to making metal ingots for smithing experience. Hopefully seeing how that armor is made will help him make some of his own. Though I do want to keep some of the better armor that our enemies dropped, another new settler comes with brand new problems. Not only does William have a similar name to Willem, basically guaranteeing I'll mix them up at some point, but he's followed by a huge raid that includes trebuchets. Those things mess a base up. I probably should have led with that and not the name thing. We'll still help him. His brawny build and bloodlust predisposed him for violence, but William rose above it to become one of the most well-read men in the world. None of the current residents understand what he's talking about when he mentions the Library of Alexandria, but he dreams of overseeing something just as grand. It's too great an ambition for a peasant, and he knows it. But what is life about if not pursuing such grand ideas? He'll take over research and potentially kick Theodric out of the library entirely. I haven't decided if I want 2 full-time researchers just yet. Let's make sure both survive the raid before deciding. Fall arrives before the raiders fall upon us. Dubious booze comes too. Charming. I'm not sure if I did something wrong. I really need to play around more with booze and fermentation, but that's a next episode kind of thing. For now, I'm gonna have everyone take a nap. I want them fresh and alert when the raid hits in the middle of the night. After they get some sleep, I'll start the second part of my plan. I'm sending a colonist to each of the far corners of the map to handle trebuchets. I don't know where the raid will spawn in. Raids take us a long time to kill, and trebuchet shots could hit colonists or ruin our defenses by destroying choke points. No matter what, I need to minimize that risk, and the only way to do that is to venture out and attack the trebuchets. They're here, and in a really good spot for us. Willem, our strongest fighter who has the best gear, is the one who's going to take on the 3 trebuchets alone. Everyone else returns to the base and to our safety. Those that are nearby can take the time to throw on some gear that's only a little bloody. The attack starts as Willem gets into position. Darkness is perfect for sneaking behind them to attack the exposed weapons, while the raiding party goes on their way to the village. The door holds up while Mabel hides behind it, ready to jump anyone who makes it through, and our archers start unloading on them. Without pausing, I have to hop between the front gate and Willem while he gets into position for his mission. 1 shot destroys the trebuchet. 2 take out the operator. He moves on to the next target. An anguished anguish-laden scream suddenly hits his ears, making him miss his shot against the easy target. Feminine. Familiar. The rain makes it hard to tell more. Who was that? What happened? He had an important mission, but could he have been faster? Could he have left them better gear to defend themselves with and made do with less? The rain makes running through the muddy ground on the way back difficult, but he manages. His heart's racing. The raiders at the gate are stymied. They don't understand why their trebuchets have stopped firing overhead, but they're starting to think that William isn't worth it. William pincers in from behind to shoot them down, though raiders turn to chase him as he arrives. He's forced to run instead of firing. It's going to be close. The man just barely manages to outrun them on the way back to the gates. The heavy cloud cover above and the torrent of rain make it difficult to see whose corpses he's sprinting past as he nears, but it doesn't matter. All it takes is one glance at the breached front gate for pieces to slide into place. That scream prepared him for the worst, but nothing stops his stomach from dropping. Though we'd only known the pair for half a year, it didn't take long to find out how close Winna and Mabel are. The cold autumn morning bites at their fingers and makes it hard to aim. Though they've been firing for hours, burning rage ensures that there's always enough strength left to pull on the bowstring one more time. Finally, the raiders realize how few of them are left. They turn to retreat, prompting Winna to abandon the safety of the walls, not to tend to her dead friend's corpse, but to try and hunt more down. The rain makes it impossible to track the trail of blood. Eventually, she has to turn back and stumble to our walls. Only as adrenaline starts to fade does she realize she's been hobbling from a wound the entire time. The rain clears soon after. Wet ground is hard to dig in, but no amount of exhaustion will stop a grave from being built. The next episode will start with a funeral. A graveyard is never planned in a fledgling hamlet. Deciding where it will go is an unwanted rite of passage forced upon the weary. Will her closest friends be able to connect with others and risk life's greatest pains in pursuit of its grandest treasures once more? Wow. Okay, that was maybe a little heavy. I'm just getting a little bit too into this whole storyline stuff. Let's get back to business. Food and rest call, but there's repairs to be done and a funeral to attend to before the sun sets. Bergwinna insisted on a place that's fairly out of the way. Mabel had wanted, to leave this little nook an untouched reserve at the back of a castle. Winna spoke about her best friend the most there. Willem and William alike tried to steal the blame for her death. The others tried to stay and help, but Winna insisted that they leave so she could have a few moments alone with her best friend. In the end, she built a simple hay resting place and spent the night there instead of in the comfort of her bedroom back in the village. It wasn't good for her back, which only made the long walk to the village the next morning even worse, but exhaustion and the red puffy eyes of someone who spent the morning crying only make the fiery determination behind them even more striking. Willem, and even Clement worried when she didn't come back that night, but her face is enough to more than assuage those fears. A drink in the morning gets guzzled down while she waits for the chapel to be empty so she can step in to say a last prayer. It's her final indulgence before she gets back to work. There's plenty of gardening to do, and while it would be tempting to lose herself beneath a tree's shade and the sweat of her own brow for a few days, she wants to take over her friend's job and be the builder for the village for at least a little while. That'll include repairs, but she's looking forward to starting on a bridge to the nearby landmass. It was always going to be the first step towards reinforcing the village into a stronghold, but the fact that it halves the trip to Mabel's grave helps to convince Bergwinna that it ought to come sooner than expected. She leads the charge, although William is happy to lend a hand. The two don't exchange words while they work, but they do pass a reassuring smile. Alright, I swear the rest of the episode is not nearly as weighty. Look, there's even happy news. A cow is here. It's only one female cow, and she is already fairly old, but I'm still going to get Willem to train her immediately, and then bring her back to the village. His first try fails, but we'll get him next time. Probably. Hopefully. The sun and spirits rise in tandem. The soon-to-be-completed bridge would let raiders in until everyone had mined the entrances to the plateau up and walled the graveyard off. With her words fresh on the mind to boost the spirits, everyone came together to make quick work of it, even Theodric. The apple trees by the backgammon tables caused a few others to start growing nearby. Winna chops them down and starts replanting them over on the other landmass. It's the start of what Willem wants, although these won't have long to go before winter hits and starts stunting their growth. Clement's also growing pretty well. He's almost got enough knowledge under his belt to make fine plate armor without ever having actually made any armor. He's also built up quite the reserve of bars to start pumping out high-tier armor once we figured out how to make a metal helmet. The man even looks excited every once in a while. Ooh, another settler arrives. Avoda is a great miner, although a bad burn she got when raiders sacked her last village has left her infirm and weak. The well-meaning woman believed tales of Theodric's prowess and sought him out. Raiders believed her for dead, so she's not followed by an attack. Except she kind of is. This one wasn't actually linked to her, but the Society of Fellows is back. These are the monsters that brought trebuchets and killed Mabel last episode. This party doesn't have siege weapons, but wants to know what happened to their brothers and sisters that came before them. Good. let them come. It might have been long enough ago that our settlers aren't emotional wrecks about it, but the mere sight of their familiar emblem is enough to make some of them thirst for revenge. They throw themselves at our walls, but a barrage of arrows takes their archers down one at a time before we turn our attention on the soldiers beating at our doors. It does end up getting a little close, but the few survivors are forced to flee. Hopefully, they tell the rest of their ilk not to come back. Vengeance doesn't feel good for anyone but Wilhelm, but knowing that 15 of the bastards won't be able to hurt anyone else offers some modicum of comfort for the rest. It's too close to winter for any crops to go in this new area, but I can spend the snowy season preparing the infrastructure there to make sure everything's ready to go. The first part of that is going to be a seed vault. This doesn't actually need to be underground, but building it there will ensure it has the smallest footprint possible. A building can go here too, although I'm not going to say what it's for just yet. Winter arrives, which camouflages the chickens. I would give them a brazier to huddle by, but animals don't actually need to keep warm yet, and I'm worried that I'd be eating charred chicken for dinner if I did. The winter means that we can't grow crops, and there should be fewer raids, so there's more time to train skills and start preparing for the future. Training efficiently means not consuming valuable resources when over the experience cap of about 1,300 experience per day. Once they finish that in the late morning or early afternoon, they start handling other work, like making the first building on the new district. It's this kind of steady progress that appeals to my efficiency-obsessed brain. I have so much gear from all those dead raiders, which means that I shouldn't have to use raw resources to train for a long while. While breaking down gear does not give much resources back, it's one of the fastest ways to train a lot of skills in this game. A cold snap hits, but we should be fine. If it gets dicey, I'll just put 3 of my midgets in one trench coat. Unless Willem goes to, why was he out here? I don't have the faintest idea, but I choose to believe that he was visiting Mabel's grave nearly 3 months after her passing and wandered through the night to ponder life, before realizing why doing that in the freezing cold is a really bad idea. No, Theodoric wants to haul something out here before passing out too. I'm not seeing what's out here. Am I blind? I'm just confused. Everyone does eventually make it back safe, although Theodoric isn't happy Willem dragged him out there to begin with. The two would rather play backgammon against themselves than sit at the same table. And Theodoric's such a baby. He's got good quality clothes, but he's still complaining about the cold. Willem had an outfit that was so threadbare that it spontaneously disintegrated, but he never once complained. This stockpile of wood should have gone in earlier. With that helping out, the shelves in the seed vault come in quickly. Seeds here should last forever, so the plan is to store some for cabbage, flax, herbs, barley, and red currants, and then lock the door after planting these in the spring. That'll keep nearby seeds for spring, and avoids the problem of trained pets getting into your seed storage and eating all of them. That's a problem I'd really be happy to have right now. God, I want goats. I do have other problems though. The light shines upon my poor planning to make a mockery of it. Well, that's an easy fix. I'll just build a wall on that one tile to get over and mine out... What am I doing? Oh. I missed the obvious solution while playing and dug in from the other side to mount at the second level for the cellar. A pack of ferocious wolves decides to wander nearby. I don't think these will break down your walls to get in, but they will sneak in through openings if there are any. That said, they do seem to be running straight at me, so I'm going to not panic and very calmly draft everyone to get some target practice in. We take out 5 before the rest flee off to our corpse storage for the free feast. You know, I said we'd have plenty of stuff to break down like 3 days ago, but I'm already out of clothes to recycle. Voda can make some caps to keep training. My bad, Willem. Good job standing watch all night. Of your own volition, not because I left you out in the cold. I know it might be a little bit early to start this, but I'm going to go ahead and lay some brick stone here so that the walk looks nice, even before this building's got anything inside. This is eventually going to be the village's main street, and while floors aren't a good way to train, XP is XP. Although this is especially early, given that you can't even see the laid bricks in the snow. I go ahead and unlock the highest tier of research table, but forgot that it requires a skill of 20 to build. Avoda only has a skill of 15 and no passions. She's at least a season off from being able to finish this, which kind of throws a wrench in my whole plan to unlock heavy crossbows and the best armor in the game for Clement to get working on. At least he'll be a higher smithing level when we do get there. Man, I'm really missing Mabel. She'd put this in right now, and we'd have all that stuff before the first year ended. Well, let's work with what we have. Avoda is a great addition to the colony, even if it's taking a while for people to meet her eye. The cellar starts going in, and she's leading the charge on that. It ends up backing nicely into the nearby seed vault. I think that might not be ideal for temperature regulation, but everything will be cold enough regardless. Although the first chicken's dying is not fine. They've given us about 24 offspring, and they've been cute this entire time, but I guess they're getting a little bit too old. I want to turn them into trophies once I unlock the technology for it, so I think I'll go ahead and store their frozen carcasses. Though, wow, that sounds horrifying and not not sweet at all like I meant it. Theodric is running low on work, so I want to unlock stone cutting and have him start making limestone bricks for the eventual castle. It'll keep him productive, and it's possible to get him to actually focus on it by reminding him that safe settlers need fewer wounds tended to. The cellar gets a little more added on, since this will be a permanent cellar, and thus is going to need to keep a lot of goods. Although it's barely stocked now, a group of raiders attack desperately hoping otherwise. The earlier cold snap and general harsh winter throughout have left them desperate, and even though it's near suicide, they still throw themselves at us. The choke slows them down, and their archers only get a small shot off on Theodric before they go down in turn. William's bloodlust flares up, prompting everyone to punch him after he said something that crossed the line. I can't repeat it, YouTube would censor me. The man turns back and chooses to smack just Theodric, funnily enough. Despite that little bit of friction, the raiders are eventually seen off. At least they'll give us some more goods to break down. Having said that, I'd like a couple pieces of decent armor to use myself. Clement gets his chance to shine with some steel mail pieces. It'll be the first armor he's ever made, and he's been in good spirits lately. Still, I can't help but worry for him, and even that's just a fraction of how worried he is about himself. The main cellar will consist of a lot of shelves arranged in a semi-efficient pattern that just looks nice. The seed vault also gets a bit of expansion for herb seeds, apple saplings, and beet or carrot seeds in the future. Other infrastructure can also start going in. That starts with fermentation stations on one side. I think 2 is probably too many, but I'd rather have too much production capacity than too little. It hasn't even been a day since the last raid hit, but a colonist followed by one wants to join. I don't know how to pronounce this, I'm going with Herbert. Herbert is technically a dullard, but he's actually got more medical skill than Theodric. He's had to work as a farmer, but he prefers research, medicine, and the needle. Anything to show the world that he's overcome being dropped on his head as a child. A growing number of settlers call for a bigger kitchen and more food being made, so I'll go ahead and unlock the next tier of cooking to throw in a clay hearth here. Clement's first bit of armor comes out as flimsy, despite a skill of 20 and seasons spent training smithing until his brain hurts. As much as it hurts us, it's gotta hurt his fragile ego even more. The man's at least got enough encouragement from others to try again instead of just giving up like he would have in the past. Instead of feeling dejected and hopeless, he's angry. The man knows he can do better, and he's going to prove it. The raiders arrive, and though Theodric wants to suggest capitulating to their demands to avoid the superior doctor ratting him out, he realizes that saying anything would earn him even more ire. Their soldiers line up along the far edge, which is actually the hardest place for us to defend. They're naturally going to funnel to both sides, forcing us to split up. I'm once again having to split my attention here, which fills my heart with worry after the last time this happened. 3 archers go to either side, plus Herbert as a melee fighter with a big shield on the side that seems to have more enemies coming. He'll help buy more time before retreating when he gets injured. If he gets injured. The man doesn't have any armor on, but he's avoiding or blocking every hit. Stuff on the other side is also going well. The archers are stronger here, so they blow through enemies. The raiders are still numerous enough to get close to breaking through before reinforcements arrive, and with their help, the enemies get seen off. Herbert almost didn't take a hit the entire time. Between steadily improving gear and the marksman skills of our settlers going up, they shoot at the retreating raiders and actually kill every last one off for the first time. There's going to be so much gear to break down that I'll actually need to expand my storage for it. I try to move the old butchering table over so that the kitchen can be an official one. To help fill it with ingredients, I'm going to go ahead and start putting new fields in as the winter comes to a close. Barley goes first, plus a fence around it to section it off. Red currants are next, but instead of fencing that right now, I'll give them paths. Efficient? Probably not. Aesthetic? I have no idea. We'll find out once it's all in. More fences going around the red currants and this herb garden I'm making. I go ahead and unlock brewing station to throw those on the other side of the kitchen. More paths start to go in to complete this new food and booze area, and honestly, I think it looks nice. In less nice news, Clement made the other set of steel armor into something sturdy. Not awful, but not good either. It's what he would have expected, and the man is pretty beaten up about it. All that training, what was it for? Why bother trying when life just hates you, when it's out to get you? There's no reward for that. Maybe Theodric had it right all along. Maybe life really is about doing the bare minimum and just learning to be fine with that. Cow! Cow alert! There's another cow! It's even a male, which means that it'll hopefully give us some offspring before the elderly female cow we have right now passes on from old age. I immediately tell Willem to start training them, even though they're super far away. The trip leaves them starving, but he tames the cow in one try and starts leading them back. Speaking of starving, a bug with the campfire means that Clement has called dibs on cooking, even though he's definitely not cooking. Well, it's a good time to start using the new kitchen anyways. It's out of the way for now, but it'll be fine. You know, I've planted a lot of stuff for booze, but no food crops yet. Let's get some cabbage going. I'll also start putting in some new pens. The cows and chickens right now share a tiny pen, and they deserve more room. The cliff face like this can actually act as a wall, and so this fits nicely. The kitchen gets finished first though. And speaking of food, my lack of food crops means that I have to either cook booze ingredients or, well, I do have a lot of chickens. and I'm gonna be moving them soon. Culling them would solve a food shortage, help make more booze, and make future work easier. It's a triple win. Wow, these only give me 7 meat each. I guess that means we have more to go down. Well, that's one way to get some time off. Herbert seems kind of extreme, and like he could just jump to the nearby stairs. Well, the first new pen is in. I want to set this one to only take cows. I don't until way later, but I did want to. The second pen can start going in against the other cliff face, using up almost all of the available space, and making this look absolutely sweet. This is way too much room dedicated to food production, but I'm happy for it. The pens get a little roof for the animals to sleep beneath, and Avoda decides to build it rather strangely. Thanks to the fact that she didn't finish all the fencing before putting the pen marker in, and the fact that our base is completely walled off, we now have one gigantic pen that spans our entire village. It's amusing, but it's really not useful, so let's fix that. Once that's done, I can forbid animals from the old pens so that Willem will start moving them over. These wolves are expanding rapidly. I'd be very, very scared to drag a body there. That new farmland is done and it looks great. Hopefully steady meals help ease Clement's wavering heart before Theodric's pessimism can permanently infect him. The first grand construction starts here. 2 clay walls. Perfect. Done. Nothing else to do here. I mean, I guess it can get a huge room too. I'll break up the walls with some windows and doors so it looks better. Avoda hits level 20 in construction while working on it. That means that she can go ahead and build an advanced research table in the second story of our library, which will eventually be a forbidden section. Every good fantasy library needs a few books with secrets too deadly or important for anyone that isn't a scholar. Or at least, that's what William insists on. It's getting stocked with far less forbidden knowledge about furniture for the moment. They aren't quite as forbidden, but they're very important for the Great Hall to be. Villagers will eventually eat their meals here, and they deserve the best. I mean, the bare minimum for the best right now, but this will still give them some good mood buffs when they use it. It also marks the start of the residential district. Once that's done, I can start putting in my next construction project. I'm not going to say what it is just yet, but I will say that I'm winging this whole thing, and that it should look super cool. I think, eventually. Some bandits attack, Avoda rushes a door into place, and we slaughter them, almost to the last too. More bodies to lug away, and more gear our crafters can recycle to train. In the wake of this attack, the high-tier research bench goes in. We are fairly safe right now, but our outgoing damage is pretty low with only short bows in our hands. A little more planning goes into this mystery project, but that's all for now. I'm honestly only using this placement to measure out the space that this will take so that I can start placing the next project. These will ultimately be bedrooms, and after keeping everyone cramped up in a tiny, barely adequate room, I think they deserve a little bit of extra space and some furnishings. They also need a gigantic wall near the front of the base that'll eventually be the core of our defenses. The old, empty chicken pen gets cleared out to make room for a path to this wall, marking the long central road in our village. The first red currants are done, which will eventually make— oh, the apples are done! That's way better! Willem will love to hear about it tomorrow morning, even though we're not nearly ready to start making sweets instead of staples. I'm skipping over a lot of work between these clips. It's actually already been half a season since the video started. Settlers are training their crafting skills in the morning, and then building, hauling, and harvesting in the rest of the day. The front gets a few stairs up to a new level planned out, and after that, we unlock the highest tiers of armor. All that training Clement's done can finally start paying off as he starts on his first great helms. Each of these is going to take most of a day, but they should be worth it. At the same time, all of this building at the front takes a lot of stone, so I'm going to start mining out the reserve at the back of the base. Although I do wish I could build walls out of barley and hay. I wanted a lot of these, but this might be too much. At least there'll be plenty of booze in the future. An escaped slave seeks refuge behind our walls. Wallace loved working as a tailor to afford the fine meals he loved more than anything else. But after leaving the city, he found working with the flax plants and wool itself to be even more invigorating. I think he and Willem are going to end up being good friends, assuming he likes apples. Clement's first great helm is done, but it's flimsy. The lowest possible quality. The others try to cheer up the downtrodden Clement, while Avoda starts working on a 3-story condo for some private bedrooms on the other side of the map. William points out that no one could be expected to do a good job when making a new piece of gear they'd never seen before, and while Clement tries to smile, his eyes keep catching Theodric's. The next helmet, and the last one he makes before the raid arrives, is at least sturdy. It's passable for most smiths, and is better than the previous one, but he thought he could do better. The earlier failures despite training all year made him feel angry, but now, he only wished he could feel angry about it. The raiders are here to reclaim Wallace, but we'll defend him. They're packing some serious heat in those crossbows. Willem takes 2 brutal shots, one to the leg and one to the head. It knocks him out cold. Theodric is starting to get injured too, so I try to have him drag Willem off to safety, but the man gets shot, prompting him to retaliate. It's fine. Their last archer goes down, so it should be safe from now on. although the very injured Theodoric is so scared that he waddles off alone while leaving Willem and the other defenders to keep fighting. The angle makes it a little bit hard to see, but Herbert swapped his shield for an iron bird each, and is poking enemies through a grated door to help make them flee. It got a little touch and go with some of the villagers, but that's still a win. Just one that shows us why better armor is so important. Clement can't help but blame himself. Willem was in one of his helmets and nearly died from an arrow piercing the frail work. Theodoric is fine now and not in any danger, but being close to death has made him reluctant to leave his room. The man continues convalescing well after anyone else would return to work. On the other hand, seeing his friends in danger has helped inspire Clement. The man still dreads what he feels like is almost certainly going to end in failure, but he's willing to try smithing armor once again, and his next result is good. That's some pretty heavy improvement, and is what I'll consider the first usable piece in the long term. But Clement doesn't want to congratulate himself or foster the ember of hope. He needs to make more and do better. The next one comes out fine, which is the best quality so far, and is a massive improvement. This thing will reduce more than half the damage a colonist takes when crit. With that done, Clement finally allows himself a smile, and then it's back to work. He could still have done better than fine, and 2 passable helmets leaves at least 6 more to go, even before he starts working on body armor. The front of the base gets some nice weapon racks to store gear for easy access. The first things that'll go there are some crossbows Bergwinna is making. Even though Winna is only in the low 20s, she delivers with a good quality crossbow right off the bat. Make that too. Armor racks are in, which I individually set up myself because I missed the copy paste button. Clement's doing a good job of making the armor racks look great with another fine helmet. The man's really starting to come into his own. We have so many of these that settlers are just leaving them on the ground in front of the mannequins. I mean, not actually, but they're just happy to litter. I also have so much food that berries are rotting in the fields before it can be hauled back to the cellar. I guess that's a good problem to have, though I could really use some more haulers. I'm honestly probably doing too much production at once. 1 researcher, 1 smith, 1 carpenter, 1 tailor, and 1.5 botanist means that at least half my population is producing at any given time. I love how everyone knows when booze is ready after being deprived for even a short little bit. I also love to see the bedrooms coming along nicely. Good God, I think I went too hard on food. So many booze ingredients. The first 6 bedrooms are in, but I want at least 10 before I move on. Excessive? Yes. There's no second part to this. The Society of Fellows is back, although thankfully without any trebuchets. Our armor preparation isn't nearly done, but most of the colonists will throw on a steel great helm at this point. Our archers are also going to upgrade from their weak short bows to the moderately stronger crossbows. Higher DPS, more armor pen, more range, but slower shots. That extra firepower helps us get rid of all their archers without any issues, at which point it only takes us a few hours to finish everyone else off. Avoda is still building bedrooms, but our mining efforts can focus on hollowing out the area near our kitchen for a booze cellar. The herb garden can also get an upgrade. Wallace joins in, sorta. He was already stout and had an iron stomach. That, plus Willem's excellent meals, has made the man into a gobbler. That means he's gonna eat a full meal in 2 quick bites. If you notice any visual changes to paths or buildings, it's because I spend some of the downtime playing with the aesthetics to clean the base up. Walls get a little less monotony, and paths become paths instead of just aimless bricks. It takes a while, so I'm not going to show it all, but you do get to reap the rewards of seeing what it looks like after it's all done. All while Avoda starts putting in the final rooms for now. Ooh, there's so many apples. Is it weird that I get a little happy thinking about Willem being happy to see this in the morning? Oh, we can't hold him to safety yet though. Let's go ahead and update the cellar so that it can store something beyond just red currants and barley. A captive managed to escape his slavers and flee to us. Again. Cedric's rather exciting life has helped him pick up a variety of great perks and skills that make him an amazing colonist. The man worked as a doctor, but he's happy to fill our pressing need for a builder as long as it means living amongst souls that yearn as vibrantly as our villagers do. I'll go ahead and make my base a little bit more OSHA compliant. I'll also get some proper healthcare going on with an apothecary's bench where we can make healing kits. Right now, we treat our settlers with a smile and some basil, and Theodoric doesn't even give his patients a smile. Distilleries that we eventually unlock will let us make disinfectant to make advanced healing kits, but for now, we'll go with normal ones. Our miners also have a lot of work to do now. First on the booze cellar, and then on the mystery building. The raiders arrive, and after gearing up at the front, I send the archers to the side of the base to take some pot shots on their approach. 2 raiders go down, but I don't have any cover here, so I retreat from a fairly fair fight versus their archers. The roads let everyone rush back into place before the enemies get there. While Cedric's got a great longsword in his hands and a grated door between him and his enemies, he slays a good few. But once that door goes down, the man refuses to retreat back. Instead, he gets jumped on and knocked out in short order. Herbert rushes to defend his passed out body from the raiders. Herbert's confidence convinces the slavers to flee. Cedric tries to say the massive wounds are no big deal, and even tries to go about his day like normal, but the man passes out from blood loss before he gets far. Herbert patches him up, although he isn't sure whether to admire Cedric's bravery or wonder how someone so foolhardy is still alive. The raid slowed down food production for a little bit, but people are starving and Willem is just chilling. He's taking his time grabbing one cabbage on each trip on his way to cook. With the new bedrooms finished, I go ahead and deconstruct the tiny little rooms at the front of the base that they were using to make sure everyone goes to the nicer rooms. The food issues actually lead to the first rebellion of the series. That starving debuff is understandably no joke for the voracious Wallace. The mystery building gets a proper wall made of expensive limestone bricks. This building needs to look good, especially now that we've got a brand new goat on the map. It's wild, fairly old, and alone, which are all very unfortunate, but it is at least one fluffy goat, so that's something. I'll go ahead and send Willem out to train and hopefully rope this animal back to our pen. In way less eventful news, a raid hits but is easily fended off. I think we'll be fine for a while, at least until trebuchets start showing up again, or until I let this overconfidence ruin me. The big mystery building is almost done, so I'll go ahead and put the rest of my stone towards the fences at the front. That starts with the second wall here. I have something in mind that'll do a good job, although I don't know how nice it'll look, so I might change this up after finishing it. The far side of that wall at the front gate gets some stairs and a floor across for easy access to the research towers and tree farm when it's finally fortified. I should honestly just move these into the base at this point, but that is a nice place for a library and it's been there for a while, so I think it'll stay until it's impractical to keep it there. Or past that, knowing me. This will still take more cut stone, so I'll keep building the booze cellar for now while that gets processed. I'll also start the first actual anything going inside the mystery building. A bit of a platform. Okay, I know. I just want to make sure everything's ready before I start filling it out. The booze cellar also gets some innards in the form of a row of torches. These are going to act like a thermostat, but I'll show that once they're all in. Avoda gets trapped while building inside the big building. Callbacks. Ooh, the goat's tame. Let's make it so that the goat can be kept in the fairly empty cow pen and get it trained. I wonder how long these live. I really hope it's a while. Some help hauling would be really useful, and now if I get a male goat, they can start making offspring. The torches in the booze cellar are done, although these aren't quite enough for the dead of winter. I need this room to be at least 40 degrees Fahrenheit, so some heavy-duty braziers go in. These each produce 13 torches worth of heat, and one alone is enough to get the place over 40 degrees in the middle of winter. After moving the fermenting fruit juice over, I can regulate the temperature inside by choosing how many of these are on at any given time. That'll ensure that everything's at the perfect temperature to ferment. The armory needs a roof, since weapons and armor stored on racks still decay if they're not covered. I'll also get rid of the walls on one of the flanks here so that enemies can run through this corridor to the defenses on the other side. The end goal is to only ever man one tower so that I never have to split my attention in forces. After that, I can turn my attention to the bottom floor of the mystery building. I saw at least one person guess what it would be after the last episode, but this is going to be the site of our new churches. The two contrasting theologies don't really seem to cause even devout settlers to conflict too much, so hopefully they don't mind sharing a grand building. This bottom half is going to be the Oak Brethren Chapel, hence the natural dirt and wooden features. The current chapels are little more than 2x2 boxes with the bare minimum. In fact, they're nothing more than that. It's a perfect description. But our settlers deserve better. The new chapels are going to have more space, chairs, tables, banners, torches, way more decorations than needed, and finally, the requisite shrines. Everything our villagers need to be faithful and proud. That opening in our defenses has let animals sneak in to try and raid our cellars. Let me rephrase that. That opening in the defenses has provided us with the opportunity for target practice. We're basically trading our vegetables and berries for meat, although William decides to shoot Theodric in the back. Maybe the angry doctor is a little bit right to be cynical around other people. We have every technology we really want, but I'm going to throw William on research so that we can fill out the rest of the tree. I'll also throw in a merchant stall near the entrance and a cartography table further inside to flesh the base out a bit. The booze cellar is looking good and has plenty inside, although rough wine is still going to take about 3 seasons to turn into fine wine. Spring's proximity means that the tree farm will resume growing soon. It also means I can put in a flax field when surrounded with fences. Our tailor is rapidly running out of material to work and outfits to scrap, a problem that this should help alleviate. I also think that flax is just one of the nicer looking crops, so it's a good choice to be nestled up against the main road. That and the apple orchard should put a smile on the face of everyone that walks by. The Spirit Distillery finishes, letting us make alcohol there from distillery ingredients, which are any kind of fermented booze. That stuff can be used for both medicine and for getting rip-roaring drunk off of moonshine. The cartography table goes in, letting us see the map. I've got no idea how we have the full thing all of a sudden, but I like to imagine the colonists we've accepted have each contributed their own bit. William knows that the Society of Fellows enslaved him to the northwest, and so on. Seeing all of the hostile forces out there is a good reminder to beef up our defenses with a walled stronghold that'll eventually be the only way into our base. In much more peaceful news, the Oak Brethren Chapel is not done? Wait, why isn't this a room? Does it need a door? Oh god, it's not going to fit nicely. This is why you don't wing things. Okay, so after looking at it a lot more, the problem is not the lack of doors. You can use stairs down to create a room without needing one. The problem is that there needs to be a wall above the bottom of the stairs here. Fortunately, that's relatively easy to fix by adding a layer of wooden walls here. With that, the Oak Brethren Chapel is actually done. This is leagues better than what they had before. The rest of the village also starts racking up improvements. I unlock skeps to place in the field so that bees can pollinate nearby flowers. Does it work like that? No. Is it efficient? Also no. Will I stop? Highly unlikely. Clement isn't going to stop either. The man's knocking out great helm after great helm. I mean, great's not an actual quality, this one's superior. While stairs down don't need a door to count as a room, stairs up do. That means the Restitution Chapel on top will get a nice little entrance before decorations go in. The skeps we recently unlocked means that we'll be able to harvest beeswax and build the candelabras that need them. The room will need a roof, which actually is going to be really hard to access. The nearby housing can get another staircase in to provide some kind of scaffolding so that builders can get up onto the roof of the church. We've got enough great helms, so Clement switches to plate bodies and knocks it out of the park with the superior one right off the bat. And that huge armor rating and stability means that it'll protect them for hit after hit, which, spoilers from the video title, we're probably going to need. Our soldiers will be able to attack through these with their two-handed weapons, giving us a 3-on-1 against anyone trying to break through. A couple of pillars for stability, and then the floor on top for our archers goes in next. Merlons surround this little archer's nest to give cover in the archer-on-archer fight. The top also gets a couple holes to help our archers shoot down at the raiders lining up before our doors. Ooh, a new cow's here. Female? Female? Please? Let's go! We had a male cow, and now we have a breeding pair once this female cow matures a little bit. They'll hopefully be giving us offspring for years. I'll start her getting trained into pets so that they can help around the base too. We've had that original cow for a little more than a year now, and they're finally close to being trained. The goat's coming along too, but this process takes a long time. Willem finished training the first pet, Tax the cow. Not tax as in what we owe to some king, but as in the name, which is kind of a weird name for a pet. Tax is going to wander through a kitchen, demonstrating that pets don't care about gates or doors. I'll assign Tax to start hauling, meaning that he'll seemingly at random decide to run off and grab something to take to a stockpile. Here, Tax is helping haul some iron nuggets, and will continue doing this to clean the base up. Not before the Ravagers are here to attack us though. These cannibals want human flesh, but they didn't bring archers, so I think they're not going to get their fill. Our defenses aren't fully ready yet. This will at least give us a chance to use auto-equip. Caps get turned to great helms, and everyone gets told to don armor too. They'll run to the front of the base to auto-equip the gear there. Once they do, I draft them and send them to the defenses. The archers line up on the left wall to pepper foes with shots on their approach before moving to the right wall to hold the choke. It works, and our archers start getting shots in while enemies stream through the path and head to the entrance just like planned. Our melee fighters, Cedric and Herbert, can head to the grated doors. I turn my attention back to the archers to have them start moving over now that they've handled the nearby foes. The plan to thin their numbers out seems to be working, but it's not, at all. Apparently, enemies can run through the diagonals of nearby doors. They demonstrate this by mobbing Cedric. Herbert had run to help, and the would-be savior instead follows suit soon after. The men are both just barely alive, but this is getting bad. The enemies are in our base. Our archers move to intercept them, but need to retreat as soon as they do. I told everyone to keep running, but Avoda and Clement stay behind to cover their friends. Avoda was the one who put gaps in the doors that let enemies in. Clement's armor was supposed to protect the absent Cedric and Herbert. Without knowing anything more, he has to assume the worst. Clement manages to flee, but Avoda gets caught out and cut down. She's just barely hanging on to life while raiders move past her too. Oswald does what raiders haven't done before and stabs the unconscious woman, killing her. The others can't see her go down, but they know that she didn't follow them up the stairs while raiders stream after them. Theodric has the best armor and actually steps up. Is that tinges of his bitter nature melting on the face of battle, or a desire for a quick death in the face of these odds? Whatever the case, enemies get on him, but our powerful crossbows keep them from mobbing us, and their forces are just thin enough to finish off. This might have been a costly win, but the armor ultimately came in clutch. Clement's the hero of this battle, even if he thinks that he didn't do anything close to an adequate job. In the end, we lost Avoda and almost lost 2 more. This victory still feels hollow. There's a lot of building, rebuilding, and cleanup to do going forward. Our defenses clearly need to be fixed up, and that Restitutionist church needs to be finished. Avoda might have been a devout Oak Brethren practitioner, but she still wanted her friends to have a magnificent place of worship, and she never quite saw it through. But before all of that, it's time for another funeral. Wallace puts a sarcophagus in near where Mabel's is, although he's not going to be building much in the future. Cedric will eventually take over on that front, but the man's too injured right now. Everyone else can meet at the front to drop their armor off and start the procession over. Cedric offers to carry the body while the rest get going, although they don't get far before exhaustion and stress knock Winna out. Herbert's also going to miss the funeral so that he can at least carry her to bed. The others arrive and lay her to rest. Avoda came here to get medical care from Theodric, though he was never able to heal her ailments and doesn't offer to say much. The others might have otherwise pressed him on it, but he was surprisingly heroic during the actual fight. They back off and instead thank Avoda for taking up building. Little else gets said though. No one was unkind to the woman, but no one else was close to her either. Wallace chooses to wear a bone crown instead of any caps or anything else we have. I'm not sure if I should be worried about that. The sun sets with everyone drinking and playing games in her memory. Despite that, it's bad enough that Willem rebels. Not the best way to turn 34. But speaking from experience, also not the worst. The village is sufficiently self-sufficient that we don't really need to go outside the walls very often, so I'm not going to prioritize hauling the corpses outside of our gates. Cedric can go ahead and take over construction, a move that he's happy to make. While Avoda was content to take it slow and use external scaffolding for the church, Cedric is more direct and immediately sets up scaffolding inside. Next up is a workshop for Herbert to work the needle in. That'll free up space at the front of the base and keep it all close to the flax field and butchery table that give him what he needs to work. Though, wow, some things never get old. It seems like Mabel's technique of building from the low ground successfully passed from her to Avoda and now to Cedric. Come to think of it, only the builders have died. Should Cedric be worried? If he dies, I'm considering the job officially cursed. And there's the first new colonist of the episode. Jacosa is also disfigured, which is like half of us at this point. She's also a bit of a lightweight, which isn't very surprising given her size. The woman used to work at an inn, but found breaking up brawls and fixing the chairs she broke over people's backs far more invigorating than cooking. A nasty cooking fire left her far too disfigured to keep working the inn, so she roved out in search of adventure and found herself here at our door. All it takes is Cedric heartily mentioning how often we get attacked and Clement offering to put a great longsword in her hands to make her stick around. The church's scaffolding is ready, so the roof can go in next. After that, some of that front wall will get taken out so that Cedric can put in windows instead, even if Willem tried to get everyone to go with Apple. Oh, and I guess the front defenses can actually get filled in properly so that enemies don't stream in again. That definitely should have been a higher priority. I just like decorating too much in this game. After that's in, the tailoring workshop can get a floor for storage, and a nearby path can get an expansion. Not before the raiders arrive though. There's 34 of them to 9 of us, meaning that we're almost outnumbered 4-1. The armory sees more use, though I realize after this that I should be drafting everyone and moving them near it first. Then I can do this so that their hats don't get scattered across the base. After that, everyone heads to the defenses properly for the first time. Archers go in on the top floor while the melee fighters prepare behind the grated doors. The raiders approach and good lord, that's a lot of them. These little slots on the floor that were intended to let our archers shoot down at the enemies at our door aren't really working. It's letting enemies stack up and start destroying the doors more quickly than I'd wanted. That starts to snowball out of control, so I pull our melee soldiers back so that they don't get swarmed. They can all hold at the top of the stairs. Our archers are still putting out so much damage, but it's not enough. Raiders break through the doors and head up. They push past Herbert because, he's the size of a child. Clement's armor does come in clutch though. Our melee fighters shrug off hit after hit after hit, while our archers fire away into their backs. Cedric gets knocked out on death's door, but the enemies retreat. I think that's 3 fights in a row where Cedric's ended up extremely wounded. Our defenses definitely need some improvements, but at least the armor is looking great. We definitely have lost that fight without Clement's best protecting everyone. I think it's only uphill from here. The defenses just need a couple minor upgrades, the 3.0 version if you will. But instead of focusing on that, it's time for more visual upgrades. In this case, it's the start of a storage area out in front of the tailoring workshop for fine clothes. Why are you unconscious, Winna? Why don't you just go sleep in your bed instead of passing out in the road? Man, the stress of these close fights really gets to her. I try to make sure the tailoring stockpile can take all the clothes that will break down, but I kind of forget to actually check the mark for apparel for like a long time. That little storage area out in front of the tailoring workshop gets a second story and a path up. The spirit distillery we got is now turning dubious booze made from literal vegetable rot into high quality alcohol. It's pretty great, so I might add more of these soon enough. The Restitution Church is all finished. The scaffolding needs to come down and decorations need to go up for it to be fully complete though. The apparel storage area gets some chests, which will hold high quality summer and winter outfits that we change into, plus a couple of hats. Oh, and the old minimal shrines can get torn down so that people actually use the fancy ones. Another armorer's bench goes in near the stockpile. It might not do much, but it'll save Clement time when he goes to actually break down gear. We need more herbs for lavish meals, booze, and medicine alike, so that herb garden gets a bit of an expansion near the red currants and chicken farm. The main road can also get an expansion to the far side of the area. You're going to notice a pretty hefty wood stockpile here. This is going to be the start of a big building. Probably the most impressive one yet. That means a ton of windows and then a ton of decorations. Thank God the candelabras that'll be filling this place up can't set wooden buildings on fire. Yet. In less grand, but perhaps just as important ongoings, the small graveyard we have will get some herbs planted. These are the closest things we have to flowers, although placing them while planning for where future coffins will go is something else. The big building has some banners and bookcases in. I start to go up to the second floor, but look, I'll be honest, I'm winging this whole thing, and without a plan, I redo and delete this like 3 times, so I'm just not going to show it until at least the first floor is about done. Instead, let's look at a little storage room I put in because I just found out that healing kits need to be stored somewhere cold. Think of this as a chilly medicine cabinet. Although all this building is taking a lot more wood than I thought, so I'm going to add more trees to our base in the back. A bit of that wood will go to the highest tier of shields as we just unlock them. These will be great for Herbert, since he can't handle the strong two-handed weapons just yet. The big building finally gets its first real permanent fixture. Opposite double staircases up. They fit amongst a sea of banners and bookshelves, plus some beams for stability so that the next floor can go in. This one will be just as big as the first floor, but ultimately have a different layout. The bottom floor gets its decorations though. These won't serve a purpose, although come to think of it, I think this place is gonna be just a few chairs and a big table short of being a great hall. But no, if you haven't guessed it by now, this is going to be the grand library that Williams always wanted. All these tables, chairs, and lights are going to be a great place for people to study. And that's not the only big building going in. Honestly, a lot of this episode has just been construction projects, but earlier episodes have covered how we get food, gear, and so on, so I'm skipping over that, plus a lot of the day-to-day management, like checking the booze seller's temperature to focus on what's changing instead. That ends up leaving mostly building projects. The building at the front is accompanied by a bit of a change to our path system, and this even more strangely shaped mining nearby at the front of our base. Some people managed to guess what the churches were even before I decorated them, but I'm guessing that no one will guess what this trench is ultimately for. The building itself gets another wall and some smelting furnaces. That's right, this will eventually be where metal gets handled. So far, it's been taken care of in that ugly nook, but Clement's mastery of the craft deserves more at this point. His success story of starting with low skill and lower confidence, training for years only to pump out failure after failure, and then finally getting to where he's at now has been so much fun to play, write, and show. As if on cue, raiders show up to test his armor. God, that's a lot of them. We're outnumbered 4-1 now, but our defenses are working properly. They can't mob the doors, which works well. In an instant, the safe fight turns dangerous. Theodric takes 3 shots in a single moment, almost immediately knocking him out. Just before the barrage of 30s to his body hit, he took a headshot for 2 damage. That means that Clement's helmet saved the man's life. Theodric didn't even have time to grab armor and almost paid the ultimate price for it. I'll definitely be ensuring that everyone has armor, even if it means they're late. As often as these two tend to each other, I hope that Herbert and Theodric at least get along well. Herbert has to know that Theodric isn't as much of a doctor as he says, but the cynical man has at least shown some heart a few times. It's enough to make Herbert think that being in this community is helping the man grow a bit. Those 2 big raids, 5 days apart from each other, give us more than 60 corpses worth of gear to break down. That means I'm not actually going to be using this new smithing area for a while. At least that'll give us time to finish it though. I know this isn't a mechanic, but I like the idea of making this place well ventilated. That stuffy room we use now must be awful. I mean, it's almost freezing outside, and inside it's a comfortable 77 while the fire is going. I saw it get up to 111 in the summer. This new metal shop will be much better. Mining on the mystery trench finally starts. Fixing this hole in the second building also finally starts. This thing got destroyed by trebuchet fire back in the first episode. The library's 3rd story goes in. This is going to be the top one for now, and I have a certain look in mind for the building, so it'll be a little bit smaller. Floors go in on the outside to let me roof off slivers of the second floor. Not that much actual research will get done in this new library though. William finishes getting us enough books to unlock the very last technology, axes. We could technically sell the books now, but they're gonna go in the new library instead. William deserves it for all of his hard work. The man literally mastered every medieval technology starting from almost nothing in like 2.5 years. The second floor of the library gets decorations. Bookshelves, more tables to study at, candelabras to light it all up, and some banners. You know, editing this, I realized I forgot to include windows. I'll throw those in the next episode. The builders can start moving their research benches over from the current library. Although moving things is a very low priority, so that's going to take a long time. Oh well, they're more for vanity than anything practical at this point. And honestly, William deserves the break. The third story gets decorations. The fact that I'm decorating this one just like I did the first two floors does feel a little bit bad. Still, the fact that the layouts are all different keeps it fresh enough for me. I might play around with more unique decorations next episode. Oh, we finally have fine aged wine. That, mead, beer, and ale all fill our cellars to give our colonists all the choice they could want. And the base is looking sick. The library is all planned out, there's still improvements to be made to our defenses and lots of work to be done at the front. Plus that mystery trench, we're really nearing the end game and I'm loving it. Our pet cow Tax is doing a great job of hauling. He's helping bring books from the old library across town to the new one, and he's even nice enough to put them on the bookshelves. I don't know how Willem did it, but he did an amazing job of training this cow. A row of walls goes in here to widen the gap so we can fit more archers in. The trench gets a couple more stairs in to mirror the original two, and a weapon rack goes on either side. I don't know why Going Medieval's art style is so enchanting to me, but I just love everything about it. The cellar can get a bit of an expansion. Although it's already stocked with so much that I'll never empty it, I and Willem alike can't bear to let apples rot just because our shelves are full. The seed vault also gets locked as we go into winter. This will ensure we've got a stock of barley, berries, and seeds to plant in the spring. Willem needs sticks to cook our meals, but he wants to ignore the stock we keep in the kitchen to go to the much further pile. I guess he just really wants to walk through his orchard. I can't say I blame him though, but people are slightly starving, so priorities, dude. And then he took his meal from the Great Hall specifically to run all the way to the library and eat there. The theses on distilling are just real page turners. Tax overworks himself. He's literally starving, but he goes to do one more hauling job before he eats a brief little snack. I guess you could say his job is fairly taxing. He's amazing, but so is the library. The final roof gets queued up. This place does need more windows, but those will go in after spring's here and trees can grow once again. I'm starting to run low on wood, and I don't want to throw 300 away on a vanity project. I mean, not when they need that for the statue of me that's starting soon. Those weapon racks down in the trenches get set to only take the lowest quality short bows, which I had someone besides Bergwena make. Her skilled hands can't make something bad even if they try to. The defensive wall up front is almost done, meaning that I can start on the actual gate to our stronghold and come to the realization that I messed up. The beautiful road through the center of town is 2 tiles wide. I want the choke to only be 1 wide, which means that it can't be both symmetrical and lined up with what we've got. That leaves something like this. It's efficient, protective, close to ideal, and hot stinking garbage. Why survive the raid if it means having things be 1 tile off of looking sweet? This is gonna make defending twice as hard, but hashtag worth. By the time night falls, the first level is largely in and the second can start. I've got a very specific idea in mind for what will eventually be the cornerstone of our defenses. It'll be a large tower that should perform great and look good. I am a little bit worried it'll be too compact, but I can expand it later if it is. Meanwhile, that trench is going to get some Merlons facing each other, plus a floor over the weapon racks to stop the stored arms from decaying. Back at the front, Jacoza's also learned the secret building technique that we have of being on the low ground and working through solid brick floors. Some actual Merlons can go in. These currently point at the brick floors, but that's getting broken down soon enough. A more efficient layout would have 5 side by side on each level of the tower, but I want the tower to look like it's a little bit sturdier. This will also make things work better at the front anyways. Cedric and Jacoza are starting to get along really well. They both like a good brawl and building. Plus they spend so much time near each other while they're doing it. Oh, I just realized that the open plan I had in mind for the smithing station isn't going to work. The game needs to consider it a room for the workshop bonus of a 20% speed boost to kick in. Yeah, the roof goes in, but this still isn't considered a room. So once the scaffolding and the beam are out, I'll throw a wall in there to make it a proper workshop, then I can start lamenting the fact that I still need smithing to be an efficient task. That entire walkway at the front of our base can get taken out. I think I used this a grand total of once, and only to walk to the fortifications that I could have instead just built the stairs at. The idea was not sound, but that doesn't really capture the full picture. The execution was also lacking. What had been a tunnel gets blocked off with a wall. The workshop also gets a wall, ruining my architectural genius. I don't actually need to have any more research done, but I'm gonna queue up a few extra theses every day. William deserves to hit 50 in intellectual. Plus, this will fill out some of the empty bookcases around our library. The forge gets scheduled for the new workshop, and honestly, even without the open roof plan, this place looks pretty sweet. It's time to start deleting the current defenses so that we can use the new tower. It's not entirely in yet, but there's enough spots to fit all of our archers if we do get attacked before that happens. I think it's also time to actually use the trench. I'm going to draft Wallace, Theodric, Clement, and Bergwena. They're going to take a flimsy shortbow and line up. Then they can start shooting each other. This isn't really a fight though. I specifically put them at their max range with the worst weapon possible and put them behind good cover to minimize how often they hit. Marksman experience is given per shot. Hits do give a little bit more, but I'm not about to injure my colonists to save a couple hours. Not about to injure them too much. They will still take the occasional hit, and Wallace is getting pretty unlucky. I'm definitely going to throw armor on them before this in the future. After they're capped on experience for the day, they can stop, and Wallace can waddle off to go get patched up. Despite that, this is going to be a daily occurrence to strengthen our fighters. Jacoza and Cedric were building through all of that instead of training, but that'll change in the near future. The third story of our defensive tower starts, but it's going to look identical to the floor below it. A few more lawns on either side, some more in front, and windows for the aesthetics. The ultimate idea is to build high enough that we can fit all of our archers on the side we're being attacked from, then have enough space at the front for them to move in once enemies actually get to our front doors. This should work nicely, without the issues that our previous defenses have had. Maybe, hopefully. This is an editor's note. It doesn't, and you might already be able to see why. I put some stockpiles for the various types of booze we have in the Great Hall. Theodric demonstrates this by going for the strongest booze we've got and downing some. It's so potent that he thinks he's simultaneously drunk and not drinking, all while he stumbles out of our Great Hall at the crack of dawn. My man needs to learn what not drinking actually means. Then again, maybe this is just how he gets through combat training. It's a new day, which means that it's back to the trench. I'm gonna have them grab armor first, then get to work. While my original plan was to rotate who trains here by time, with Willem and William going a bit later in the afternoon, that just takes too much effort. I'm just going to instead make the trench a little bit wider so that everyone can train at the same time. Skilling up our melee fighters is a lot easier. Cedric and Jacoza stop building, drop their weapons, and just start punching each other. They do hit pretty frequently, and they don't hold back just because they're using their fist, so I'm also going to give them armor next time. After the pair are done, they can open up entrances into our base again. I will work on these more eventually to make them a little bit longer and maybe finally start using traps. Oh god, Herbert, why are you digging there? You could be doing this from the high ground. I put this training in a trench specifically to avoid this. I don't want passerby getting shot. You know, in retrospect, maybe I should have just had them stop training for like 10 seconds for Herbert's sake. All the books have been moved to the new library, which means that I can get rid of the old tower. I can also start to extend the shorter entrance and carve out some more land for our village. What we have now is pretty dense, and I want this next place to be a little bit more open. It looks like we'll be testing the defenses soon, as the next colonist has arrived. Christina is not much that she's willing to say. She won't talk about why she's running from knights, even though a brief conversation reveals her ruthless nature and bad attitude. The woman's a great doctor, because our village is basically a medical conference at this point, but she doesn't like it. And the rest of her stats are pretty spread out, so I'm not sure how useful she's actually going to be. Maybe a miner or a huller? At the very least, she'll be another melee fighter. The marksman training trench gets the expanded construction put in, but no one's going to use it today. I don't want to risk anyone being injured when the raiders do arrive. Time passes quickly, and the raid's almost here just like that. After running late during the last attack, I'm going to send everyone to gear up early this time. Christine is a melee fighter at heart, but we don't really have a melee weapon for her, so she's probably just going to wield a crossbow for this fight. The raiders arrive, well actually not raiders, the knights arrive in the middle of gearing up, and they want her head. You know, given the circumstances, I thought she might be like an escaped princess that had run away, but she's wanted dead, not alive. Or not? After we refused, they left. I wonder if that's because we had been good friends with them. Even after the negative 120 reputation, we're still neutral. Of course, the only time I start preparing early, they decide to just peace out with their 30-something soldiers. Well, this episode isn't ending until we get raided at least once. We can at least get some training in. This is going to be the last time I show it, but I'll be having them train most days. Those with passions match up against each other so that they're done at the same time. I will eventually put them all in mail armor. They'll be defended during training, but they can still move around unperturbed without me having to micromanage and drop and equip it every day. I also want to get the others involved in training. The fourth and final level of the defensive tower goes in. Above this, our archers start getting a range debuff, so I'm not going to build higher. Some traps go in on either side as well. I don't actually have a builder that can do metal traps yet, so it's wooden ones for now. I don't know what a couple will do versus the hordes that we fight, but it might make a tiny difference. God, this game has a great aesthetic. Ignore that they're clipping through the seats. I just love the look here. It's as peaceful as can be. Some walls go down to give us more space. I've got something in mind for here that should also be pretty peaceful. Oh, and another cow arrives. These are the most serene times. Although a roof on the tower goes in, sort of breaking that up. Do you still count that as being peaceful since this is keeping us safe? No, I'm not an ethics professor. I don't think ethics had even been invented at this point. Wait, why are you exhausted? Why are you even up? It's 2 a.m. Theodric, you too? Why are you hauling 2 bones in the middle of nowhere at 2 a.m.? Is Theodric a necromancer? I swear, suspected witches have been burned for less. Well, at least the cow's domesticated and can get roped over. They'll fit in nicely alongside the female cow normally in our pen. Animals only breed when they're within an opposite sex partner within 10 tiles, so Tax might not have time in his busy schedule. What I've got planned for the place near our smithing facility can go in. I know, I'm not even teasing it for the next episode. What a bad YouTuber. Wouldn't it be crazy if I lost a fight at the end of this episode and the series just ended right there? This is going to be some sort of a town forum. I'm imagining that this is a wonderful place where people get married, we have town meetings. Range training really does need to be done in the trench, but melee training can be done wherever. Christine runs up to sucker punch Herbert while he's working as Cedric and Jacoza brawl at the new town forum. Herbert, it's not training if you don't fight back. Oh god, he's got a weapon. Break it up. The Circle of Avalon Merchant comes, which is pretty generous considering what happened, so I decided to give them a gift. I would like to go with apple pastries, but we make fine meals now. Unfortunately, 160 gold worth of stuff doesn't change our reputation with them by even 1 point. With training and construction alike done, it's time for the town forum to get decorated. Some candles, some town pride, some tables and chairs for events. For the floor, let's try a brick path in and limestone rows coming off of it. Nope, that's ugly. Let's get rid of that. I'll throw some apple trees in along the walkway. Oh god. Editing me now clearly sees the obvious thing, that the apple trees are uneven. And you know, I'm just forced to wonder, how in the world did I not see that when I was playing this map? I recorded another hour without ever fixing this, and now I can't even unsee it. Well, y'all are suffering with me. The rest of the floor goes in, I guess. The tree farm gets moved to the back of our base, with plenty of every kind along the path. Oh, another cow. We're getting really lucky on them. She's another female, which is going to double how quickly our herd grows once she's matured a little bit. The town forum is finally built in, and I like what's there, but I do feel like it's missing something up top. I'd love like a pulpit or something like that, but there isn't really anything that fits the bill. Clement starts smelting some gold and silver bars to see if that unlocks any furniture, like a golden chair that we could use as a throne, but no luck there. Any ideas what would look good to fill this in? Leave it down in the comment section if you have one. I'm drawing a bit of a blank. Huh, Cedric and William actually share a birthday. Guess that means we only need to make one cake. The current site for backgammon is really nice, and it's actually one of the longest standing placements in our entire village, but it actually needs an expansion. There's a queue for the tables at some points. The space by the Great Hall is perfect for it, and more apple trees. Another new colonist arrives. Hunliff is a talented doctor, because of course he is. We have 9 colonists with us that have arrived at our border since starting, and only one of them, Wallace, doesn't have a skill over 20 or a passion for medicine. Oh right, Hunliff, the guy who arrived. He's an escaped slave that was forced to be the bandits' doctor for various combat wounds they suffered. A bandit chief died in his care, forcing him to try and flee before they found out and blamed him. The man wants to help us grow so that we can go burn their encampment to the ground. But I mean, that feature isn't actually in the game yet. Shh, don't tell him. Also, he wants to help with research, but William has already taken care of all that, so I'm not sure what he's gonna do around town. We accept him and the huge raid that's gonna follow him in a few days. Hey, it's a few days later. Yeah, not much happened, but a lot is about to. Everyone's gonna get up early, but I did send them to bed early, so it should be fine. Christina's rocking a 2-handed mace, and Hunliff is rocking a crossbow. The slavers arrive, and while they are all melee folks, their 44 outnumber us 4-1, and most are the highest tier of marauders at that. Our melee fighters go to the gates, while our archers go to the merlons. They're split up between the floors with no more than 2 per. Their messenger arrives to tell us to release Hunliff, and we greet him the only way you greet a slaver. The rest of their forces are lagging behind, but apart from a few overeager folk who rush in to die, they hit us as a mass. Our archers do admirably, knocking kill after kill after kill, but more still come. Their forces swarm through the gaps, making me think that I might have wanted to be a little bit cheaper by spamming doors instead of making it all accessible. The first get to our front, so I send our archers over there. In retrospect, this was actually a mistake given a defensive oversight I made. The doors are going to give the raiders some cover from this angle, and they didn't get that on their initial approach. You might be able to notice that the kill messages start actually slowing down here a lot. We're doing less damage this way, but we are at least hitting the most important folks. I'm more concerned with our melee fighters. They like to creep up a little bit when attacking someone new. I'm still worried that they're going to run out and get surrounded if they're left to their own devices though. The choice to have this entrance be 2 tiles wide bites us in the butt, since 2 enemies can hit the same door at once. Corpses litter the ground, but the door eventually breaks. I could pull our melee fighters into a concave here, but we've had issues with enemies pushing past them before. Instead, I pull back. They're going to stack 2 deep at this entrance. I think this will reduce the chance of having them get past when our colonists move up a little bit, but it does mean that we're taking more damage. Cedric and Jacoza start taking a steady spree of hits. Their health bars can't last forever, but they do last just long enough. The remaining enemies scamper off after a 9-hour siege in which we killed 36 of them. Hunliff isn't sadistic enough that the violence thrilled him, but our show of strength has him realizing that he made the right choice in coming here. Everyone else heads to eat and celebrate. Our defenses definitely need an update though. Despite the victory, that was really close. I'm going to build a second tower that looks back at the entrance to avoid the issue of cover that we ran into there. That should drastically increase how much damage we do. That said, Trejofoot is essentially in the endgame. I'm planning some changes to the front to make it stronger. I'm going to finish decorating a few more buildings, but that's about all I had in mind. Moonlight bathes everything in a calming glow. Just ignore the dozens of corpses at our gate. They attacked us. We're still the good guys here, even if, I mean, we're going to be adding a lot more corpses to the pile. Look, there's a lot of gear to clean up, but first, I need to put in some more graded doors to replace the ones that got destroyed during the last raid. I can't blame them for wanting to get into our village though. I mean, we've got everything. A town center that's admittedly purely decorative. It still needs a little bit more to fill it out, but I've got an idea in mind that'll spruce it up nicely. Our smithery is also in, and the master smith himself, Clement, has made us a litany of some of the most powerful armor and swords the game has for the nearby armory. But you saw all those corpses at the gate, that's why we need every advantage we can get. Our grand library doesn't need anything, but William still busts out a few casual theses every morning, even though we've unlocked every technology. Every masterwork he makes brings him closer to maxing his intellectual stat out at 50. We've got a lot of limestone blocks ready, but I fear that it won't be enough for the over-engineered idea I had in mind for upgrading our defenses. I'm going to be building paths to the far side on every floor so that our archers have a clean line of sight to shoot down at this little choke between these graded doors without there being any cover in the way. Using bricks for this isn't practical, but I care too much about looks to not use so much of the most expensive material in the game, even if a one-level basic wooden tower would accomplish the same thing. The town forum gets more decoration. The apple trees need to get moved over. I put them in last episode, but somehow missed that they weren't evenly spaced. Then, even more brick paths can go in. I just love the look of bricks and apple trees. It'll also stop them from slowly growing offspring nearby. You can already see one in on the left. Keeping this web of bricks will actually prevent that, and keep things looking nice and tidy. We're going to continue the marksman training started in last episode. The villagers that need it grab the weakest bows in the game, stand at max range in this trench, and shoot at each other from behind full cover. The chance to hit is almost zero, but they still get experience for every miss anyways. Accessing that new floor at the front takes some very delicate deconstruction work. Anyways, I may or may not have made the floor collapse all the way down. It's not that I messed up, it's just that I wanted a bird's eye view of the ground floor, and this is the fastest way to do it. I'll fix it eventually. All of this takes a lot of stone, but our miners are also needed to clear that front gate out. I'm going to leave a 2x2 path in on either side for an entrance and egress. Then work a tower into what's currently at the bottom of the screen. I also need to work on another booze cellar though. The current one we have is great for fermenting, but it's a little bit too warm to store the finished product, and they're slowly turning into vinegar, all while the front continues to have steady progress made at the rate we make limestone bricks. This honestly doesn't look as nice as I'd hoped, but it is something new, and exploring these structures and ideas is just part of the fun of going medieval. I also think it should work pretty decently, which is a nice plus. Well, I guess we get to put that to the test. I was worried this would happen. We're getting attacked before all the defenses are in. I don't think we can even reach the top level on that tower right now, but a lot of enemies have come knocking at our doors. All our villagers run to the front of our base, switch their training weapons for the real ones, then our villagers can fight with pathing for a bit to get in position. That took a while, so the enemies are probably at our gates. Or, not? I guess we're not the only ones fighting with pathing. Is there no way out of that pit? No, there is. There's a very clear path to my base. Let's send a scout out there. I mean, there's doors in the way, but that's never been an issue before. The enemies should be attacking them. But yeah, as soon as Willem steps outside, they all start jumping into action to mob him. But not quite. Weird. He's right in front of them and they're still just milling about. I think my village might be getting a little bit too big for pathfinding to kick in properly, but they do eventually come after him. He can retreat once they're nice and hooked. Hello, everyone? You want to shoot to protect Willem? Alright, time for Willem to run. Let's go, keep shooting. Yeah, the game's definitely starting to chug. Hey, Willem, I told you just to leave. Oh, stop. Oh no, run. Get out of there. Willem slips back behind the doors and the enemies start to meander about again. The game's definitely having issues managing pathfinding for everyone. The enemies don't seem to realize that they can attack the gate and break it down. They just gather there. Our archers keep attacking, and their archers do as well, but their melee enemies just wander around as target dummies. But on the other hand, breaking my own defenses down so that they can mob us isn't fair either. And this isn't as free as it seems. Their archers actually tear William up. I try to pull him back out of line of sight so that he stops getting hit, but he runs back in to fire again quickly enough that he gets knocked out. I think a crit might have actually killed him there, but he is going to stay safe for now. After focus firing down their archers one at a time, their melee fighters continue to just stand there as they get shot down. It takes us almost 6 straight hours of firing those crossbows, but we eventually win the fight. There's already so much gear littering the ground that we don't need to try and kill any of the stragglers for more. But cleaning all of this up can wait until after everyone eats and sleeps. They deserve it. And you deserve to subscribe to my channel. Go ahead, treat yourself. The villagers have plenty more work to do. The Great Hall still needs space to store booze, and our defenses need a lot of improvements. Kind of. Keeping everyone stacked on top of each other did end up working out pretty well in the last fight. Admittedly, that was sort of helped along by pathfinding. It also means that a miss from an enemy archer can end up hitting a different villager, and I think keeping them on different floors should avoid that, so we're going to continue building the full tower. The boost cellar gets a little bit of nice wood flooring to stop everything inside from getting dirty, and there's also more training to do. I'm not going to do it for everyone forever, mostly because it's just a little bit micro-intensive to set it all up and check who's hit their experience cap for the day, but I want everyone to eventually have a skill of at least 15 in either melee or ranged, whichever they specialize in. That'll let them wield the strongest weapons. Oh, and we should start hauling those corpses too. Anyone that just happens to be running nearby can grab one. There are so many that it takes 4 or 5 colonists all evening to get it done, but it does mean that we eventually clear out the inside. There are still more outside of our walls, but I don't care about them as much. Although people are going to be running out there to get gear to break down. They've got nice stuff. They can take that mood hit. The main towers are still going up, but I noticed that the funnels on either side that let enemies through aren't as long as our archers' range. Let's fix that by upping them to 29 tiles. That's increased from the base of 25 by the archers standing on high ground. The tower is continuing to make good progress itself, although we've used up all 600 cut limestone bricks we had at the beginning, plus what we've made in the interim. A blight hits our crops, and while the pop-up said that everyone should try to weed it out, yeah, no, I'm just gonna let it do its thing. I mean, I have literally thousands of raw food. Wenna and Wallace are doing an excellent job stocking our pantries. Hell, most of what they've grown recently rots in the fields where they harvested it, but we never have enough stone. We've got the first 3 levels fixed in the main tower, so it's time to add the actual shooting platform on the far side. That's going to be some floors across these beams to stand on, then some ralons for cover. Alright, that's 6 of the 8 I eventually want to have. Let's get to breaking down all that gear at our gates too. I've got enough gear for everyone, so the armory and forge can also help with that. Now William, who's been helping forge ingots, can also help break the 80-ish pieces of metal gear we've gotten down. I have enough iron that actual recycling is kind of wasted, but this still gives some experience, and it stops the gear from just cluttering the place up. Unfortunately, the other boost cellar is not done quite soon enough, and we now have a lot of vinegar. That might help if I needed to preserve anything, but I think this is fairly useless. Am I wrong? Let me know in the comments if I just don't know what I'm missing out on. Ooh, sheep. You know, every time a wild animal has arrived so far, it's been on its own. I know you can get 2 in one event. Have I just been unlucky and gotten 1 like 7 times in a row? After a bit of debating, the lead up to the forum gets some more fruit trees. I might be a late stage apple addict. Screw all this village building stuff. I'm just gonna make every single tile on the map an apple tree. Well, let's brick off both sides. I do think what we had before, where it was just a brick path in the middle, might look better, but there's no way to know for sure until we try it out. In the front, we can access the top level of the tower now, so we can start putting in the last walls on the other side and up top. That means it's gonna be done soon, although maybe not soon enough. Our trusty quarry has thousands of iron, gold, and silver, but we're running dangerously low on just plain limestone. I think there's a lesson in there somewhere, but I don't believe in learning. We can get limestone at a quarry outside our walls, although it is slower and riskier. I might be being too extra with our defenses. So let's add more to them. The last floor goes in, making sure that 8 of our 7 archers can hit enemies from the best spots. Let's also put the last stairs in. Once we finish everything I've planned, I think it'll be about done. Up front anyways, the rest of the village still has a little bit more work to do. The forum gets an expansion, which is going to require I shift the staircases a bit. You can't relocate these, so I'll just be deconstructing and rebuilding them, which wastes more stone. The magic of editing means that it's the next day and all that's all done. The platform can get expanded, giving room for a cartography table. This is useless, since I don't actually use the one I already have, but I think it's a good look. It's like a war planning room, or a town map for people to discuss what new buildings should go where, as if this is a democracy and not a weird world where they're controlled by an omnipresent but sometimes very, very stupid me. I think Clement would be the mayor? He's got a good speech skill, but it's not just that. He's well liked by everyone. The old guard rooted for him while he grew as a person, and the new folk know that they're safer because of his gear. Man, I'm really bad at camera work for recording right now, hence the excessive zooming in or out and rotations. You know, I try to cut that out, but I often can't. I'm trying to improve this so that I can get peaceful shots like this. God damn. Oh, that is a lot of enemies. Let's get everyone rocking the right armor and weapons. Equipment management makes us all a little bit faster, which we do need. The forest bandits are back in force. They aren't the river bandits we liberated Jacoza and Hunla from, but they're just as bloodthirsty. Everyone gets in position again and yeah, they're still not attacking like the last guys. This is super annoying. As soon as I send someone out, they start charging. Let me try disassembling these front doors. Yeah, that seems to be maybe working. Okay, definitely working. I've used multiple doors before without issue, but they just don't like these for some reason. Our villagers are angry that they've had to wait all day, and they've been training all season. Between that, increasing our skill across the board, and upgrading a couple to better crossbows, our archers cut through them. Enough are still there to mob through and get past while our archers switch from firing away freely to focusing down theirs. If you notice any choppiness, by the way, it's not you or YouTube. The game really starts to chug and drop frames on my end during recording. Burgwinna takes some hits, but we make quick work of their archers before it's too much of a problem. The melee raiders mobbing our doors look to be more of a problem though. Our archers can move over, revealing a flaw in this defensive plan. It takes a while to move everyone to their own level, and without pausing, I just sort of send everyone to the same spot with one click instead. It doesn't stop them from getting into place and firing away while Christine and Cedric put in work at our doors. Okay, pull back, pull back. A single brutal blow took off almost half her health, but she's such a fiend for a fight that doesn't stop her from trying to run up again, nor the door from going down despite her best efforts. Thankfully, we've killed so many that the raiders retreat just moments before it can get too messy. That's another long raid, another litany of corpses to haul off, and gear to break down. Neither fighting all day yesterday nor being pretty badly injured stops Christine from wanting to brawl and train though. Cedric refused to hit the wounded woman, so she roped Herbert in instead. Our crippling need for limestone has us going outside our walls, but with the fresh raiders dead, no enemies will dare try to attack us right now, and this should be pretty safe. Another cow's been trained. Pelusa will help haul, bringing us up to 5 in total. I'm obviously cutting a lot of their contributions out, but it's a huge help. Even after the nerfs, cows still seem to haul a good amount. I'd wager that they're acting as 2 or 3 full-time hauling colonists right now. We have 13 beds for 11 colonists, but I want to finish this last condo, so I'm going to add one more in. Limited stone availability has hindered our builders core for so long that it's nice to see them handle something that they have all the supplies for. Christine, Cedric, and Jacoza are half done by the time I finish planning everything. The forum can also get the last decorations put in place. I think those will finish it up nicely. And honestly, that's the last project I had in mind. The front tower gets a roof, but our village is looking pretty clean. Alright, I promise that this is the last time I gush about how pretty this game looks, but just watch a thunderstorm start to hit our village.
It's probably the last time anyways.
I doubt I'll finish this, but I do need another project to work on now that the current ones are all done. And that's going to be a wall around the backside. This is entirely pointless, but it's going to feel better to be surrounded by solid stone than nothing. Eventually, I make it back around to the front and the bridge joining where we start with the plateau that houses our residential and agricultural areas. I still remember when Winna, distraught by Mabel's death, rushed this otherwise pointless bridge in to have an easier time accessing the woman's grave. William helped her with the project, even if he couldn't help her with the grief. Now, that bridge can finally get the aesthetic upgrade it's deserved all along. Though I think Winna is going to be content letting Cedric and Jacoza work through it. She knows that they deserve happiness together even if she'll never get to enjoy that particular joy again. The library gets a few special theses queued up. I missed the moment, but William finally hits 50 in research. He's not our first 50, Willem has a skill of 50 in cooking, but it's still a monumentous occasion for the wonderful genius. The day's training also gives Christina a melee skill of 15, while Clement works on a fine longsword for her hands through the window. Herbert will handle the two-handed mace Christina was rocking. Alright, this is another look how pretty and peaceful the game is moment, but you also get to see the wall. Oh, not again. Every time I try to zoom out. 51 of them, almost outnumbering us 5-1. No trebuchets though. I think we're taking so much damage in all these raids that they aren't spawning in, so yay? This fight's especially choppy, so apologies if you're seeing frame drops. Without that second door, the enemies actually moved towards us this time, although they started so far away that we have time to get everyone into position regardless. In fact, we've actually got enough time to put a couple Merlans in it and rush order them. I noticed our melee fighters were getting shot by a few archers last fight. This should halve the damage they take from that. It gets finished just in time. Good lord, it feels like 20 stream in 5 seconds. I would definitely fill this corridor with traps if I wanted to be effective, but that just sends the wrong message to merchants we never buy anything from. True power isn't just the capacity for violence, it's the ability to temper how you inflict it to never risk affecting innocence. Except for the 2 traps we do have there. There are so many enemies that it's hard to actually focus down their archers. Oh no, don't run forward, get back, get back! Even with a more clear path in, the enemy melee fighters still mill about out here a lot. Some do charge forward to get chopped down by our melee fighters, but most just sit here and hide their archers. We eventually kill all of their ranged fighters and move our own over. Nope, stop running out, Jacoza. She and Herbert really have death wishes. Oh my god, please retreat, please. Oh, thank god. The archers are in position, and they literally shouldn't be able to miss with all those targets in front of them. Our stronger melee line keeps the grated door safe this time. It does take a lot of bolts, but we eventually shoot enough dead that the survivors flee. Between dropping frames from such a big village and all these pathfinding issues, plus the lack of interesting building projects to take on, I think we're done growing this village. But we've accomplished so much. Burgwinna has her wonderful garden everywhere she goes. Cedric gets his adventurous life, full of fulfilling work and someone he plans to propose to as soon as he finds the right moment. Clement's overcome his fear of failure and become a mastersmith that makes the finest armor in the lands. Christine is pleased that we kept her safe, although unbeknownst to everyone, she does plan to slip away in the middle of a foggy night soon enough. Herbert's a master tailor who sets fashion trends with his new outfits every year. Hunlif gets to help us slaughter hundreds of the kinds of raiders that enslaved him for most of his life. Jacosa's disfigurement hasn't stopped her from building and fighting to her heart's content, nor from finding a partner. She's gonna end up proposing to Cedric before the man finds the perfect moment he's waiting for. Theodric does have more work than he'd like, but his slowly warming hearts earned him respect in a way he never thought he'd get. Wallace gets to harvest fine flax in service of Herbert's tailoring, and there's even a sheep farm getting started to add wool outfits. Willem has all the apples he needs to cook anything he's ever wanted to, and a wonderful family to make them for here. William runs the nicest library in all the lands, and friends that visit him there just to read what he's written. You know, I've enjoyed making this series so much, and I've learned a lot about storytelling and camera work for a couple big one-offs or short series in the coming months. That said, I definitely will be doing more full playthroughs like this in the future as more updates are released for this amazing game. Just to be a bit of a tease, let me say that the next big one-off I have planned is my favorite project in Going Medieval so far. That huge tower of mine manned by 11 trained fighters armed with the best gear isn't as good of a defense as this seemingly plain floor. But that's for later this month. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a like. If you've enjoyed the series, subbing means a lot. I'm nearing the 1,000 mark. I hope you'll all join me for what I've got coming down the line.